Captain Jun Park took a deep breath as the airlock door opened with a soft hiss. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's, making his first step onto the station more of a bounce than he intended. He quickly adjusted, determined not to appear clumsy before the gathered representatives of the Galactic Confederacy. The reception hall of the space station stretched before him, its ceiling arching so high that it disappeared into shadows. The floor beneath his boots gleamed like polished obsidian, reflecting the stars visible through the massive viewports that lined the curved walls. Representatives from dozens of alien species stood in clusters, their conversations falling silent as they noticed his arrival. Ambassador Park of Earth announced the protocol droid floating beside him, its metallic voice echoing across the hall. Jun straightened his navy blue uniform adorned with Earth's new planetary emblem, a simplified outline of the solar system with Earth highlighted in blue. He had argued against the flashier uniform designs proposed by the United Earth government, preferring something that conveyed dignity rather than pomp. Now, facing the stares of beings with extra limbs, luminescent skin, and bodies that defied human classification, he was glad for the understated approach. A delegate with skin so transparent that Jun could see the pulsing of organs beneath slithered closer to a tall, beetle-like creature. Another oxygen breather thinking, "They deserve a seat at our table." The transparent being muttered, not bothering to lower its voice. The universal translator pinned to Jun's collar faithfully relayed the comment. The beagle creature clicked its mandibles in what might have been agreement. They haven't even mastered basic gravity manipulation. Their fastest ships barely reach light speed. Jun pretended not to hear, maintaining the neutral expression he had practiced for months. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light communication 10 years ago, when a damaged alien probe crashed in the Sahara. The technological leap forward had been enormous, but humanity remained far behind most Confederacy species. An official with 4 arms and iridescent scales approached. "I am Coordinator Null. Follow me to the greeting line, Ambassador." Many are curious about humans. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions. Some delegates were polite, others openly dismissive. A few seemed unable to comprehend that humans couldn't regrow limbs or survive in vacuum. One insectoid diplomat asked if it was true that humans still slept horizontally and required daily unconsciousness. "Yes," Jun had answered, "though some of us need less sleep than others." How inefficient, the diplomat had chittered before moving on. By the time he reached the end of the receiving line, Jun's face ached from maintaining his diplomatic smile. The last delegation stood apart from the others, surrounded by guards wearing armor that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. The Imperial Celestial Delegation, Coordinator Null announced with noticeably more deference. "The Emperor's daughters serve as his voice in Senate matters." 2 figures stepped forward, and Jun found himself momentarily speechless. Unlike the bizarre forms of many delegates, the princesses appeared almost human at first glance. Their skin shimmered with a faint golden glow, and their eyes, 3 for each princess, were large, angled, and a deep violet that caught the starlight. Delicate patterns of what looked like constellations traced across their foreheads and cheeks. "I am Princess Minji, first daughter of Emperor Ta," said the taller one. Her voice carried a musical quality that the translator couldn't quite capture. "This is my sister, Princess Yuna." Jun bowed slightly, recalling the briefing on celestial customs. "I am honored to meet you, Your Highnesses. Earth is grateful for this opportunity to join the greater galactic community." Princess Yuna tilted her head, studying him with unnerving intensity. "You are smaller than I expected." Jun managed not to wince. "I'm actually considered quite tall on Earth." "Interesting," Princess Minji said. Unlike the other delegates, she seemed genuinely curious rather than condescending. "Your race evolved on a high-gravity world with significant radiation and extreme temperature variations, yet you have no scales, no secondary breathing apparatus, no backup organs." "We make do with what we have," Jun replied. "Your species survived despite having no natural defenses," Princess Minji noted. "Fascinating. We're more resilient than we appear, Jun said. Princess Yunha's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. Perhaps, but the Senate rarely admits species without either exceptional abilities or technological innovation to offer. What does Earth bring to the Confederacy, Ambassador Park? Princess Minji asked directly. June had prepared for this question. Earth's admission committee had debated endlessly about humanity's selling points. Some had argued for highlighting human art, others our scientific potential. In the end, they had settled on honesty. Adaptability, he answered. Humans aren't the strongest or fastest. We can't breathe underwater or survive extreme cold. But we adjust. We innovate. We find new solutions when old ones fail. The princesses exchanged glances, communicating in some silent way. The Senate reception begins in 1 hour, Princess Minji said finally. Many will question why humans deserve Confederacy protection and resource access. Some will suggest you remain under observation for another century. Jun nodded. He had expected nothing less. We will observe you with interest, Ambassador Park, Princess Yuna added. Few species have progressed from discovering light speed to Senate candidacy in less than a decade. As they moved away, Jun caught fragments of their hushed conversation. Father said humans were unimpressive, Yunha whispered. Father has been wrong before, Minji replied. Coordinator Null returned, leading Jun toward the diplomatic quarters. As they walked, Jun glimpsed Earth through one of the massive viewports, a tiny blue dot almost lost among countless stars. Everything he had ever known, everyone he had ever loved, existed on that small sphere. He squared his shoulders. Humanity was counting on him. Against all odds, they had reached the stars. Now they just had to convince the galaxy they belonged there. 2 weeks into his assignment at the Galactic Senate, Jun Park was developing a headache that even the advanced medicine dispensed by the station's medical bay couldn't fully relieve. He sat in his quarters reviewing notes on a tablet, trying to memorize the ever-growing list of cultural taboos he needed to avoid. Don't make eye contact with the Vril for more than 3 seconds, he muttered to himself. Never eat in front of the Kaz delegation. The Movians consider blue clothing offensive. The tailor require formal titles repeated 3 times in greeting. A soft chime interrupted his studying. The door to his quarters slid open to reveal his human assistant, Lee. Ambassador, the Huxler delegation has requested your presence at their reception in 30 minutes, Lee said, looking worried. The same reception you declined yesterday. Jun sighed. I declined because the Drexians specifically asked me to attend their cultural display at the same time. If I go to the Huxlar event instead, the Drexians will see it as choosing sides in their territorial dispute. And if you don't go to the Huxlar reception, they'll consider it a grave insult to their eldest, Lee countered. I can't be in 2 places at once, Jun said, rubbing his temples. There's more, Lee added hesitantly. The Corps Ambassador has formally requested Earth's petition for membership be moved to priority review. Jun looked up sharply. That's not good. The Corps have opposed our membership from the beginning. Priority review meant Earth's case would be heard within days rather than months. They weren't ready. Jun had hoped for more time to build allies among the various species. I need to find Princess Minji, Jun decided, standing up. She might know what the Corps are planning. The central promenade of the station bustled with activity. Delegates from across the galaxy moved between meetings, social gatherings, and private negotiations. Jun made his way through the crowd, careful to keep his hands at his sides with palms inward, a lesson learned the hard way. 3 days earlier, he had extended his hand to greet the Huxlar ambassador, not realizing that showing open palms in their culture was a challenge to combat. The ambassador had immediately drawn a ceremonial blade, and only the quick intervention of a nearby security drone had prevented bloodshed. As Jun rounded a corner, he nearly collided with a tall, muscular figure with gray-ridged skin and a permanent scowl. Ambassador Drav of the Corps species stood with 2 of his aides, blocking the corridor. Ambassador Park, Drav said, his voice like gravel, rushing off to another diplomatic blunder. June kept his expression neutral. Ambassador Drav, I hope you're enjoying the station's hospitality. Drav's yellow eyes narrowed. I understand you're seeking audience with the celestial princesses again. How unusual for them to entertain a species so undeveloped. We all have to start somewhere, Jun replied carefully. Indeed, some start. Others should never begin. Drav leaned closer. Humanity is not ready for membership. Your technology is borrowed. Your understanding of cosmic law negligible. Your inclusion would undermine millennia of standards. Before June could respond, a melodic voice interrupted them. Ambassador Park, I've been looking for you. Princess Yunha approached, her golden skin seeming to glow under the corridor lights. Her 3 violet eyes briefly assessed the tension between the 2 ambassadors. Princess, Drav said with a stiff bow. The human was just learning about protocol. Again. How fortunate he has you as an instructor, Yunha replied smoothly. However, Ambassador Park is expected at the Celestial Embassy. With your permission, I'll escort him there. Drav's ridged forehead creased further, but even the core knew better than to challenge a celestial princess directly. He stepped aside with a curt nod. As they walked away, Yunha guided June with a light touch to his elbow. You should avoid private conversations with Drav. The core record everything. Thank you for the rescue, Jun said quietly. It wasn't entirely altruistic. We need to talk. Yunha led him into a small alcove away from the main corridor. You've created quite a stir with your unique approach to diplomacy. Jun winced. The incidents were unintentional. In Huxler culture, showing palms indicates readiness for combat. Princess Yunha explained. Though I suspect you know that now. I'm trying to learn 17 different cultural protocols simultaneously, Jun admitted. It's proving challenging, yet interesting, Yunha said, her third eye blinking independently of the others. Most new species spend decades studying our ways before requesting Senate membership. Humans simply showed up. We're known for diving in headfirst, Jun said with a small smile. Yunha's expression remained serious. The core have called for priority review. That means. I know what it means, Jun interrupted. We need more time. You don't have it, she replied. The vote will happen in 3 days. My sister and I have been advocating for Earth's inclusion, but others are listening to Drav. His warnings about human unpredictability resonate with the more conservative species. June frowned. Why are you helping us? The Celestial Empire rarely takes positions on new member applications. All 3 of Yunha's eyes focused on him. Let's just say we find humans refreshingly different. Your species approaches problems unlike any other in the Confederacy. Before she could elaborate, her communication device chimed softly. It's Minji. The Senate subcommittee is convening early. You should attend. This session concerns Earth directly. The Senate chamber was arranged in concentric rings, with the most powerful and ancient civilizations occupying the innermost circle. As a petitioning species, Earth had no official place, so June stood in the observer's gallery. Ambassador Drav stood at the central podium, his powerful voice echoing through the chamber. The human brings chaos to established order, he warned the Senate. Their planet is not worth the disruption. Murmurs of agreement rippled through several delegations. The humans have caused 3 diplomatic incidents in 2 weeks, Drav continued. They lack the basic understanding required for interstellar cooperation. Princess Minji rose from her seat in the inner circle. The incidents Ambassador Drav mentions were minor cultural misunderstandings, quickly resolved. Perhaps we should recall the numerous incidents caused by the Corps during their own probationary period. A wave of surprised whispers swept the chamber. The Celestial Empire rarely engaged in such direct confrontation. Different times, Drav growled. Different circumstances. Indeed, Princess Minji agreed. The humans face a much more complex confederacy than the Corps did, yet they adapt quickly. Ambassador Park has already mastered 6 diplomatic languages in 2 weeks. Jun straightened in surprise. He hadn't realized the princesses had been monitoring his progress so closely. As the debate continued, Jun realized something important was happening. Without his seeking it, an alliance was forming. The celestial princesses had decided humanity was worth defending, and in the complex power structure of the Galactic Senate, their support might make all the difference. Now he just had to figure out why they'd chosen to help, and how to avoid causing any more diplomatic incidents before the final vote. Jun paced his quarters, unable to sleep despite the late hour on the station's artificial cycle. The emergency Senate session had ended hours ago, but his mind kept replaying Ambassador Drav's words. The representative from Earth must prove human worthiness, Drav had announced, his voice echoing through the suddenly silent chamber. I invoke the right of challenge. The shock that followed was palpable. Delegates turned to each other, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Even the typically unflappable coordinator Null had looked disturbed. Ambassador, Null had whispered to Jun, this is highly irregular. The right of challenge has not been invoked in over 300 cycles. Before Jun could ask what exactly the challenge entailed, the Senate Speaker, a towering being of shifting crystalline structure, had addressed him directly. Representative of Earth, you may decline. However, doing so will result in the immediate rejection of your planet's petition. All eyes in the chamber had turned to him. Jun had felt the weight of Earth's future on his shoulders as he stepped forward. I accept, he had stated firmly, though his heart raced beneath his calm exterior. Now, hours later, Jun still knew almost nothing about what he had agreed to face. His research terminal provided only vague references to ancient trials designed to test whether a species was worthy of joining the Confederacy. A soft tone indicated someone at his door. Cautiously, he pressed the access panel. Princess Minji stood in the corridor, alone and dressed in a simple robe rather than her usual formal attire. Without her ceremonial ornamentation, she looked younger, almost vulnerable. May I enter? She asked quietly. What I have to share cannot be overheard. Jun stepped aside, wondering if this visit violated some unknown protocol. Your Highness, I'm honored, but we don't have time for formalities, Minji interrupted, stepping inside. The first trial begins at Station Dawn, and you are woefully unprepared. No one will tell me what these trials involve, Jun said, frustration edging his voice. Because they're not supposed to, Minji replied. The challenges are meant to test not just ability, but ingenuity. Advanced knowledge would defeat the purpose. She paused. However, Drav has manipulated the system. The challenges were originally designed for species with certain advantages that humans lack. So I'm walking into a rigged test, Jun said flatly. Minji's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. Yes, which is why I'm here. She moved closer, lowering her voice further. The first test isn't about strength, but adaptability. You'll face an environment that shifts rapidly between extreme conditions. Jun frowned. Like temperature changes. Precisely. From near freezing to scorching heat, back and forth with little warning. Most species undergoing this trial have natural protections, scales, multiple layers of skin, or thermal regulation abilities. Humans have none of those, Jun said. Exactly why Drav chose this challenge. Minji's expression grew concerned. Additionally, you must complete a task while enduring these changes, assembling a complex mechanism from scattered components. Jun ran a hand through his hair. So I have to solve a puzzle while potentially freezing or burning to death. Somewhat dramatic, but essentially correct. Minji looked around the room. What materials do you have access to here? For the next 3 hours, Princess Minji helped Jun prepare as best he could. They reviewed the station's common materials, discussed possible approaches, and analyzed what little they knew about the challenge arena. As she prepared to leave, Minji hesitated at the door. Ambassador Park. Jun, why did you accept the challenge? You could have requested time to consult your government. June considered the question. Earth needs this alliance. We're vulnerable alone. And he smiled slightly. Humans don't like being told we can't do something. Minji's expression remained serious. That determination may serve you well tomorrow. Good luck, Ambassador. The challenge arena was a circular chamber 30 meters across. Transparent walls allowed the Senate observers to watch from tiered seating surrounding the space. June stood at the entrance, dressed in the simplest clothing he could find. Loose-fitting pants and a light shirt. Around his waist, he had tied a belt with several small pouches. Ambassador Drav watched from a prominent position, his gray-ridged face set in what might have been satisfaction. The first trial will commence momentarily, announced the speaker. Ambassador Park must assemble the communication array from components scattered throughout the chamber. He may use only what is provided inside the arena. The environmental controls will fluctuate throughout the trial. A door slid open, and Jum stepped into the arena. He had exactly 10 minutes to survey the space before the environmental shifts would begin. Components of what appeared to be a communication device lay scattered across the floor. Metal pieces, crystal arrays, connection nodes. June worked quickly, gathering the pieces into a central pile and mentally cataloging them. The assembly looked similar to Earth's early attempts at quantum communication devices, though more advanced. A loud tone sounded, and Jun felt the air temperature plummet. Within seconds, his breath fogged before him, and his fingers began to stiffen with cold. He quickly removed one of the pouches from his belt, revealing thin sheets of reflective emergency blanket material he had collected from his quarter's safety supplies. Working swiftly despite his numbing hands, he wrapped several layers around his torso and legs. Not perfect, but it would help retain some body heat. Just as he finished, the temperature shifted again. Heat blasted through the chamber, reaching levels that reminded him of Earth's most punishing deserts. Sweat immediately beaded on his skin. Jum didn't waste time removing his insulation. Instead, he began assembling the communication array, his fingers working nimbly despite the discomfort. When the heat became too intense, he poured water from another pouch over the reflective material, using evaporative cooling to manage his body temperature. Back and forth the conditions went. Freezing cold that made his teeth chatter, then blistering heat that left him gasping. Through it all, Jum continued assembling the device, improvising tools from the available components when needed. The observers watched in fascination as the human used the environment itself to his advantage. During cold cycles, he used the metal components as heat sinks, pressing them against his skin to absorb body warmth that made them more malleable. During heat cycles, he used the thermal expansion of different materials to lock pieces together. Then came his most innovative solution. As the device neared completion, Jun removed his final pouch, revealing a small amount of gel-like substance he had collected from his quarter's food synthesizer. During a heat cycle, he applied the gel to specific connections, allowing it to thin and flow into place. When the cold cycle hit, the gel hardened, creating a perfect seal. With 2 minutes remaining, Jum connected the final component. The array hummed to life, projecting a holographic representation of the Galactic Confederacy's emblem above the arena. Silence fell over the gathered delegates. Even Ambassador Drav appeared stunned. Princess Yunha's voice carried through the chamber. The human has completed the first trial. Jun stood in the center of the arena, exhausted but upright. He had passed the first test, but 2 more remained. As he exited the chamber, he caught Princess Minji's gaze. Her slight nod carried more meaning than words could express. For the first time since arriving at the station, Jun felt a flicker of genuine hope. Perhaps humanity did have a place among the stars after all. Jun Park stood in the observation deck, watching a massive ship approach the station. The vessel dwarfed even the largest diplomatic crafts docked at the Senate station, its golden hull catching the light of the nearby star. Intricate patterns decorated its surface, reminiscent of the markings on the celestial princess's skin. The Emperor's personal flagship, murmured Li, standing beside him. No one expected him to come personally. June felt a knot form in his stomach. Emperor Tai rarely left the celestial homeworld, much less traveled to the Senate station. His unexpected arrival could only mean trouble for Earth's petition. "When will he arrive?" June asked. "His shuttle is already docking," Li replied. "The princesses have requested your presence in the celestial reception chamber in 1 hour." June nodded. After passing the first 2 trials, the environmental challenge, and yesterday's navigation test through the station's zero-gravity sectors, he had gained a measure of respect among the Senate delegates. But Emperor Tai's arrival changed everything. The Celestial Empire was ancient and powerful, one of the founding members of the Confederacy. If the Emperor opposed Earth's membership, their chances would diminish dramatically. The celestial reception chamber glittered with what appeared to be actual starlight embedded in the walls. Princess Minji and Princess Yuma stood rigidly beside a tall, imposing figure whose golden skin seemed to pulse with inner light. All 3 of Emperor Tai's eyes were a deep, mesmerizing purple, set in a face that managed to be both beautiful and terrible at once. June bowed deeply, following the protocol Minji had taught him. "Ambassador Park," Emperor Tai's voice resonated through the chamber. Somehow both whisper and thunder simultaneously. "I have come to see this human who has captured my daughter's attention." "Father," Princess Minji began, "Ambassador Park has successfully completed 2 of the 3 trials." The Senate. Emperor Tai raised a hand, silencing her instantly. "I am aware of the proceedings, daughter. What interests me is why you and your sister have taken such an interest in Earth's petition. Humans are unique," Yun has said quietly. "Their approach to problems differs from any species we've encountered." "So I've been told," the Emperor replied. He fixed his gaze on June. "My daughters speak too highly of humans. I wonder what spell you've cast." June maintained eye contact, though it took considerable effort. "No spell, Your Imperial Majesty. Earth simply seeks to join the galactic community with honesty and respect." "Honesty," Emperor Tai repeated, as if tasting the word. A rare commodity in the Senate chambers. Before June could respond, a distant boom shook the room. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. "What is?" the Emperor began. A second, closer explosion cut him off, this one powerful enough to make the floor tremble. Through the windows, Jun saw smoke billowing from the diplomatic quarter. "Security breach in Sector 7, announced the station's automated system. "All delegates please proceed to designated safety areas." Emperor Tai's guards moved toward him, but Jun was closer to the princesses. Years of emergency response training on Earth took over. He grabbed both Minji and Yuma by their arms, pulling them away from the windows. "Down," he shouted, dragging them to the floor. Seconds later, a third explosion shattered the windows of the reception chamber. Shards of transparent material flew inward as the room's atmospheric containment shield activated, preventing total decompression. When June looked up, he found himself face to face with Emperor Tai, who had also dropped to the floor. For a brief moment, all 3 of the Emperor's eyes widened in what might have been surprise. "Are you hurt?" June asked the princesses, helping them to their feet. "We are unharmed," Minji replied, her usual composure temporarily shaken. Station security forces swarmed the area, escorting the Emperor and his daughters to a secure chamber deep within the station's core. To Jun's surprise, he was included in the evacuation. Hours later, after the immediate danger had passed, Jun sat in a conference room with the Imperial family. Station security had confirmed 3 separate explosive devices had been planted near key diplomatic areas. "The timing is suspicious," Emperor Tai noted. "During my first meeting with the human ambassador." Princess Yuna, who had left briefly to speak with her contacts, returned to the room. Her expression was grave as she approached her father. "I've received information from our intelligence network," she said quietly, though June could still hear. "The explosions were set by operatives working for the Corps." "Drav?" June asked, surprised that the ambassador would resort to such tactics. Yunha nodded. "But there's more." The core plan to attack Earth while you're here. They fear human potential. Ambassador Park of Earth, the speaker announced. Your response. June walked to the podium, acutely aware of the thousands of alien eyes tracking his movement. He had prepared a lengthy speech outlining Earth's technological progress and potential contributions to the Confederacy. But standing there, facing the assembled might of galactic civilization, he decided on a different approach. Distinguished delegates of the Confederacy, he began. I could stand here and list human achievements or promise future contributions to counter Ambassador Drav's arguments. Instead, I will simply tell you who we are. He paused, looking around the chamber. We don't claim to be the strongest or wisest species, he said, but we adapt, we learn, we persist, and we understand the value of unexpected friendships. Jun gestured toward the celestial princesses sitting in the inner circle. When I arrived at this station, I knew almost nothing about your cultures or protocols. I made mistakes, many of them. But with each error, I learned. That is humanity's greatest strength. We fall, we get up, we improve. He looked directly at Drav. Some see this adaptability as threatening. Perhaps it is. But it also offers something the Confederacy needs, a fresh perspective, new ways to solve old problems. June's voice grew stronger. Earth stands at a crossroads. Left alone, we will continue to advance, continue to explore. But we would rather do so as part of this greater community, learning from your wisdom, contributing our unique viewpoint. He smiled slightly. In the environmental challenge, I used materials in ways they weren't designed for. In the navigation test, I found paths others overlooked. In the ethical simulation, I refused to accept that some lives must be sacrificed for others. This is humanity, imperfect, determined, and unwilling to accept limitations. Suddenly, the massive doors at the rear of the chamber opened. A hush fell over the delegates as Emperor Ta entered, flanked by his daughters and an honor guard of 12 celestial warriors. His presence was unprecedented. The emperor had not addressed the full Senate in person for over 500 years. The speaker's crystalline form flickered in surprise. The Senate recognizes Emperor Tai of the Celestial Empire. The emperor moved to the center of the chamber, his golden skin seeming to absorb and reflect the light simultaneously. When he spoke, his voice filled the space without effort. I have observed the human representative throughout his trials, Emperor Ta said. I have witnessed his responses to challenges specifically designed to exploit human weaknesses. What I have seen is not weakness, but strength born of limitation. Murmurs swept through the chamber as the emperor continued. When threatened, the human's first instinct was to protect others, not himself. When faced with impossible choices, he refused to accept the parameters of the test. When confronted with technology beyond his understanding, he adapted it to serve his needs. Emperor Tay turned slowly, his gaze touching each section of the gathered delegates. The Celestial Empire formally recognizes Earth as an ally, he announced. The first such declaration in 10,000 years. The Senate erupted. Delegates rose to their feet, some protesting loudly, others calling for immediate discussion. Ambassador Drav stood rigid, his gray-ridged face darkening with anger. Order, called the speaker, her crystalline form flashing brightly. We will proceed with the vote as scheduled. The voting process took nearly an hour, each delegation registering their decision through the chamber's central system. June waited in silent tension, watching the tally grow on the massive display overhead. When the final vote appeared, June had to read it twice to believe it. Earth had been admitted to the Galactic Confederacy by a margin of just 7 votes. Princess Minji approached him as delegates began filing out of the chamber. Congratulations, Ambassador. Your people are now under Confederate protection. The Corps will not dare move against you. Thank you, Jum said, still processing the reality of what had happened. But I don't understand why your father chose to support us so publicly. The Emperor sees farther than most, she replied. He believes humanity will bring necessary change to a confederacy grown too comfortable in its ancient ways. "And what do you believe?" Jun asked. Princess Minji's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture he now recognized as thoughtful consideration. "I believe we have just witnessed the beginning of a new era," she said. "One in which humanity will play a greater role than anyone, except perhaps my father, currently imagines." "What potential?" Emperor Te asked sharply. "Humans are barely spacefaring." "That's precisely why they fear us," Jun realized aloud. "We've advanced faster than any species in Confederate history. From discovering FTL communication to applying for membership in just 10 years. Most species take centuries," Minji confirmed. "The core believe that at our current rate of development, humans could match or exceed their technological level within a generation," Yunha explained. "They want to eliminate the threat before it materializes." Emperor Tai was silent for a long moment, his 3 eyes focusing on different points around the room, as if processing multiple streams of information simultaneously. "Your actions today were unexpected, Ambassador Park," he finally said. "When the explosion occurred, your first instinct was to protect my daughters rather than yourself." Jun shrugged slightly. "It was instinct. On Earth, I was trained as an emergency responder before joining the diplomatic corps." "Fascinating," the Emperor murmured. "Most species prioritize self-preservation above all else." "Not humans," Princess Minji said. "Their historical records show countless examples of self-sacrifice for others, even strangers." Emperor Ta stood, moving to a viewport that showed his massive ship still docked alongside the station. "The core are powerful, but not foolish enough to directly challenge the Celestial Empire." He turned back to Jun. "If their aggression toward Earth becomes known to be against our wishes, they would not dare proceed." "Father?" Yuna asked, a note of hope in her voice. "The 3rd trial is scheduled for tomorrow," Emperor Ta continued. "Regardless of the outcome, I believe I will address the Senate personally." His expression softened almost imperceptibly. "Perhaps," he said thoughtfully, "it is time for a historic alliance." Jun could hardly believe what he was hearing. The Celestial Empire had not formed a direct alliance with another species in over 10,000 years. "Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty," Jun said, bowing deeply. "Do not thank me yet, Ambassador," Emperor Te replied. "You still must complete the final trial. And this one, I'm afraid, was specifically designed to expose humanity's greatest weakness." As Jun left the secure chamber, his mind raced. What weakness did the core believe would disqualify humans from the Confederacy? And more importantly, how could he prove them wrong with all of Earth depending on his success? The Grand Senate chamber hummed with whispers as delegates from across the galaxy took their seats. Today would decide Earth's fate. The final trial, a test of ethical reasoning that had forced Jun to make impossible choices in a simulated crisis, had ended without a clear verdict. Some senators argued he had passed, others claimed he had failed, but all agreed his solutions had been uniquely human. Now the final vote would determine everything. Jun adjusted his formal uniform, a new one sent from Earth after his original had been damaged in the explosion. This one carried additional insignia, Earth's full history represented in subtle embroidery. He touched the small planet Earth symbol over his heart for luck. "Ready?" asked Li, standing beside him at the entrance to the chamber. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jun replied. The speaker's crystalline form shimmered as she called the Senate to order. "Today we conclude the petition of Earth for membership in the Galactic Confederacy. Ambassador Drav of the Corps will present final arguments against admission, followed by Ambassador Park speaking for Earth." Drav strode to the central podium, his powerful frame dominating the space. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. "We have witnessed the human representative navigate our challenges with creativity." The way he said the word made it sound like an insult. But creativity alone does not qualify a species for the responsibilities of Confederacy membership. Humans remain primitive in their technology, limited in their physical capabilities, and dangerously unpredictable in their thinking. Drav continued for nearly 20 minutes, his arguments polished and compelling. He cited Earth's history of conflict, human biological limitations, and the destabilizing effect admitting such an underdeveloped species might have on Confederate relations. The Corps have protected Confederate interests for 50,000 years, he concluded. We urge you to trust our judgment in this matter. Earth is not ready. Perhaps in another century, they might be worthy of consideration. The chamber filled with murmurs as Drav returned to his seat, his yellow eyes fixed challengingly on June.